what is a Lutheran? Now, to define what a Lutheran is, just like probably any tradition or any movement or any group of people that do anything, there are debates about exactly what defines precisely what a Lutheran is. But what I'm going to be using here is the basic paradigm that was set forward by Charles Porterfield Krauth. So if you're looking at the slideshow, there's an image here of Charles Krauth. His years are 1823 to 1883. Krauth was an American Lutheran theologian who wrote a book called The Conservative Reformation. So we're going to talk about what conservative reformation means exactly. But essentially, what he was trying to do in his own context is look at the broader landscape of religious traditions within the United States and answer the question, where exactly do Lutherans fit here? So we've got first this kind of dichotomy that he sets up between traditionalism and then what we might call radicalism. This is that there are different tendencies among Christians, just as there are in politics and culture and all sorts of other things as well, but there are tendencies to either veer toward that which is traditional, that which has been, inherited, that which is older, or a tendency to say that we need to kind of break free from the past and we need to capture something that is new and better. What Krauth is going to say is that there is a kind of traditionalism that is inherent within the Roman Catholic system. So if we're going to talk about traditionalism versus radicalism, we've got basically a spectrum. We've got some, one end here that's radicalism. The farthest end is probably, Socinianism or Unitarianism or something. And then the farthest end in terms of traditionalism, we might say today is the Latin Mass Catholics, right? Those who very much value that which is old. So in Krauth's day, this is pre-Vatican II, so Rome is very different. But at this time, traditionalism was really Rome's claim. They were holding on to the older traditions, the medieval traditions. There's going to be a question that Lutherans pose as to how old those traditions actually are, because it's usually going to be the Lutheran argument that the Roman traditions are actually medieval, not patristic. They're not as early as Rome claims. It's really a holding on to particularly medieval traditions, but nonetheless. So we might include Eastern Orthodoxy here as well. Krauth does not, because there wasn't a large movement of people converting to Eastern Orthodoxy within an American context, at least, and there definitely is that today. So we've got these kind of traditionalist tendencies, but then on the other hand, you've got a kind of radicalism. Now, the term radical reformation is used often to refer specifically to the Anabaptists. So if you're looking at the various groups that come out of the broader Protestant Reformation, there are a number of different approaches to reform, because all of these groups, we're talking Lutheran, Reformed, Anglican, Anabaptist. Okay, those are the four groups that show up at the time of the Reformation as the four core Protestant groups. And everyone else since then that is Protestant in any sense at all really is an offshoot of one of those four groups. So we have, among those four groups, all of them have kind of different approaches to how it is that we are to reform the church. Now, all of them are agreed that there are corruptions that are happening within the medieval church, and that there are things that need to be changed. There are doctrines that have arisen in especially the late medieval period, if we look at things like indulgences, that do not have any scriptural backing whatsoever, and that to be faithful to Scripture, we need to alter those things. There is agreement that there is broad moral corruption that's going on in the church at that time. So the radicals are those who essentially take the position that we kind of need to start over, that we need to just throw out the traditions of the church, what is developed into late medieval Roman Catholicism. The idea here is that the errors are so bad we should just kind of throw them away and basically start over. We can just go back to Scripture, go back to the book of Acts and say we need to be the church of the book of Acts again, and simply throw out the tradition that has been received. So that's radicalism. So you have the Anabaptists, which would today be groups like the Mennonites and the Amish being the most well-known. I put non-denominationalism in that camp as well. I think modern-day non-denominationalism is something that really doesn't grow out of historic Christian traditions. It is something that sees itself as autonomous. There is no structural hierarchy of a non-denominational church beyond the local church. That's why it's called non-denominational. And there is no tie to history, historic worship. Now, of course, non-denominational churches, there's a spectrum, so we're talking broadly here. Then you have the Socinians, who end up becoming the most radical group. The Socinians end up rejecting the doctrine of the Trinity, the ecumenical creeds. They argue that every truth of Scripture basically needs to be proven by mere reason. That then kind of develops or morphs into what you see later as Unitarianism. Then you have, on the other hand, this group that I'm calling the kind of moderate Reformed. Those who want to say, we really do need to reform the church. We are going to get rid of excesses in the church. But they are also willing to say that the traditions in terms of worship, say, that are not directly commanded in Scripture, those must be discarded. And you have something called the regulative principle of worship, that there is going to be much more of an emphasis here on getting rid of elements of the service. However, these Christians are going to say that we still hold to the ecumenical creeds and we still hold ourselves to be part of that historic church. So these moderate Reformed groups are the ones that we usually refer to as Reformed or Presbyterian. So this is really John Calvin's Reformation. So the major figure for the radicals would be someone like Menno Simons, the founder of the Mennonites. For moderate reform, we're going to say someone like John Calvin. Someone like Ulrich Zwingli, though he is Reformed and an essential figure for the Reformed Church, he's kind of between those as well. So I don't know that I'd put him quite in radicalism, but he's not quite at the moderate Reform place either. We're talking a spectrum here. But with all of that background, where do Lutherans fit then? What Krauth is going to say is that the Lutheran approach is conservative reform, which is why he calls it the conservative Reformation. In other words, the Lutherans see themselves, we see ourselves as the Church Catholic. And there was never a desire to split off from the Church of Rome. There was never a strong desire to break fellowship. However, we were forced into that position due to the stances that Rome took in the excommunication of Martin Luther. And the conservative reform says we keep tradition, we respect tradition, we love our tradition. However, we recognize that tradition is not infallible in the way that Scripture is infallible. And so when we are coming to certain things that are going on in the church, like the practice of indulgences or the treasury of merit, and we look at the development of these ideas and look at Scripture and say, look, there is no scriptural precedent at all for these doctrines. In fact, these doctrines are pretty clearly opposed to significant teachings of Scripture. At that point, if we have to make this choice of tradition or Scripture, we should pick Scripture every time. And so the conservative Reformation, and I'm including Anglicans there as well, but I'm not going to get there. Lutherans and Anglicans are distinct, but they do have a more conservative approach to Reformation. The conservative Reformation says there are corruptions in the church, and we need to use Scripture to root out corruptions and false teaching and false doctrine. However, we retain the traditions of the church as they have been developed, which is why when you go to a Lutheran service or an Anglican service as well, you're going to see something that looks much more similar to what you see in a Roman Catholic Mass than, say, if you go to your local Presbyterian church.